Goals change games, but whoever knew that a non-goal would change the sport as a whole? Well, it did, in more ways than you can imagine. When Frank Lampard's goal was disallowed in the round of 16 game in the 2010 World Cup, it immediately became one of the most controversial moments in World Cup history. But unlike the other controversial moments before it, this one revolutionized the sport for good. The 2010 World Cup was one of the most entertaining international tournaments for so many reasons, and the anticipation was super high. There were shockers right from the group stage. France didn't win a game and finished bottom of their group, and Italy also didn't win a game and finished bottom of their group. It had hardly begun, but it was already a crazy tournament. But even with France and Italy gone, we still had European giants like Germany and England in the competition. And if they both finished top of their group, they could avoid each other up until the final. And what a final they would have produced! Germany did their job by finishing at the top of their group, but England, they botched it. They failed to win their first two games of the group and were only able to finish second behind the United States. What this meant was that a fixture worthy of the World Cup final ended up being played in the first round of the knockout stages. It was a bit of a bummer, but I mean, who doesn't like a big game, right? And the rivalry that exists between these two national teams made it an even bigger fixture to look forward to. They'd met in the 1966 World Cup final, the 1990 World Cup semi-final, and even the semi-finals of the Euro 96. There was a lot of history there, so it was always going to be a very interesting fixture whenever and wherever they met. On top of all that, these guys had some of the best squads in world football. On Germany's side, you had Manuel Neuer, Thomas Müller, Bastian Schweinsteiger, Philipp Lahm, Mesut Özil, Toni Kroos and Jerome Boateng amongst others. England meanwhile had Frank Lampard, Ashley Cole, Steven Gerrard, Wayne Rooney, John Terry, Jermaine Defoe and James Milner amongst others. This was a proper blockbuster game by every single metric. There was no other game in that round that fans were looking forward to more than this one. It was even more highly anticipated than the game between Spain and Portugal. But even with all the anticipation and expectation, everyone was still so shocked by what happened in this game. England were stunned early on. Miroslav Klose opened the scoring in the 20th minute after England's defense failed to properly read a long ball from Neuer. 12 minutes later, the Germans doubled the lead through a powerful Podolski shot from what initially looked like an impossible angle. Germany were cruising, and everyone thought the game was over for England already. But the Three Lions slowly began to find their voice, and they managed to roar before the halftime break. They put together a cool corner kick routine, and it ended with Steven Gerrard sending in a cross to the box, which was met by Matthew Upson. 2-1, England were back on it. With the wind now in their sails, the Three Lions wanted to level the game before the break, and just 2 minutes after their first goal, they thought they'd done exactly that. Frank Lampard unleashed a shot from the edge of the box and immediately wheeled away in celebration. He had brought the game back level. Or so he thought. The ball quite obviously crossed the line, and all the England fans and staff were already celebrating their equaliser. But Neuer picked the ball up and continued the game like nothing happened. Guess what? The referee let him. Wait a minute, what the heck has just happened here? Do you mean neither the referee nor his assistant saw that ball cross the line? No way! Well, yes way. The goal wasn't awarded, and the game went on 2-1. It was a robbery, a big robbery. This felt like a reverse of 1966. In the 1966 World Cup final between England and West Germany, England were awarded a goal when it wasn't 100% certain that the ball had completely crossed the line. But this time around, the ball had 100% crossed the line, but England didn't get the goal. Having been robbed of their equaliser, England's hopes and motivations were punctured, and they ended up getting battered 4-1. Just like that, they were out. England had been accused of underperforming on the biggest stages in previous outings, but this time around, nobody could blame them. They were undone by the system. If that goal had gone in, it would certainly have changed the entire complexion of the game. Now, if you thought that the reactions on the pitch were dramatic, you haven't seen anything. The real drama started after the game ended. We'll tell you about it in a second, but if you're enjoying the video so far, take a second to give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you can continue to enjoy more content like this. The aftermath of that game was real pandemonium. FIFA came under a lot of pressure from fans, journalists, and stakeholders, and it forced Sepp Blatter, the FIFA president at the time, to come out and make a statement. He announced that discussions on goal line technology would be immediately reopened. Yes, reopened. There had previously been discussions about the use of goal line technology in football, but they were thrown aside for the most ridiculous reasons. In 2007, FIFA started to test the technology in junior tournaments, but the following year, Blatter rejected it, saying that it was only 95% accurate. In March 2010, both FIFA and IFAB voted to ditch the technology permanently, which was strange because almost every other major sport had already embraced the use of this technology at this point. But the football governing bodies seemed to be happy with the way the game was, so they put it behind them. When they took that vote in March, they thought that was the end of the goal line technology conversation, only for the Lampard incident to happen just 3 months later, on the biggest stage of all and with everybody watching. So, FIFA no longer had anywhere to hide. They had to address the elephant in the room, or on the pitch. But things did not happen as swiftly as we thought they would. People expected to see goal line technology used in the next major international tournament, which was Euro 2012. But Michel Platini, the president of UEFA at the time, said no. Do you know what he thought would be a good substitute? Placing an extra referee behind the goal. What an idea! And it didn't even take long for that idea to be exposed as ridiculous and unsustainable. In a group stage game between England and Ukraine at Euro 2012, Devic's shot crossed the line before it was cleared by John Terry, but the goal wasn't awarded, even though all this happened right under the official's nose. This forced FIFA to speed up the tests they were currently running, so the goal line technology could be introduced as soon as possible. The first phase of testing began in 2011, when 8 goal line tech systems were put through a preliminary phase of trials, but the testing phase was sped up in 2012. In 2012, IFAB announced that of the 8 systems that were initially tested, 2 had made it to the second phase, and they were the ones that would be seriously considered by FIFA. These 2 systems were GoalRef and Hawkeye. GoalRef involved putting a sensor in the match ball and generating magnetic fields on the pitch, while Hawkeye involved using multiple high-speed cameras which will provide images that will be used to triangulate the exact position of the ball at every point in time. At the time, Hawkeye was the more popular system being used in other sports. These 2 systems went through a series of tests, in stadiums, in training sessions, and even in laboratories. It was important to see how accurate these technologies were in different weather conditions, and how they could be affected by magnetic field distortions. After all testing was done, FIFA was finally ready to introduce goal line technology in an official game in December 2012. So, the first official FIFA-recognized tournament that saw the use of goal line tech was the 2012 FIFA Club World Cup. Both the GoalRef and Hawkeye systems were used. Also in 2012, IFAB amended the laws of the game, allowing for goal line technology to be used but not making it mandatory. The Premier League was the first major domestic league to adopt the use of goal line technology, doing so ahead of the 2013-14 season. And considering what England had suffered at the 2010 World Cup, it wasn't hard to understand why the FA readily embraced it. The first goal line technology-assisted decision in the history of English football was seen in December 2013 in a League Cup game, while the first goal given by goal line technology in Premier League history was Edin Dzeko's goal for Manchester City against Cardiff in January 2014. The technology was here to stay. After the technology was used flawlessly in the 2013-14 Premier League season, we then saw it used in a major international tournament for the first time that summer, when it was implemented in the 2014 World Cup in Brazil. But this time around, a different system was used. This one was called Goal Control, and it involved the use of 14 different high-speed cameras placed in strategic positions around the pitch, usually under the roof of the stadium, but focused on the goals. This then transmits information to a watch worn by the referee in just under a second, allowing for decisions to be made swiftly. It was tried out at the 2013 FIFA Confederations Cup before it was introduced to the World Cup. And in the World Cup, it didn't even take long for us to see the use of the technology. In a group stage game between France and Honduras, just 3 days after the tournament kicked off, we saw the first ever goal awarded using goal line technology in World Cup history. After seeing the success of the technology in 2014, other major leagues and competitions began using goal line technology. The German Bundesliga and the French Ligue 1 introduced it ahead of the 2015-16 season, while the UEFA Champions League, Euros, Europa League, and Copa America first saw the use of the technology in 2016. From this point on, it was up, and away. Seeing how smoothly the implementation of this one went, football became more open to introducing other forms of technology to help properly officiate games. So, not long after goal line technology was generally accepted by the footballing community, trials for video assistant referees began, and they were eventually introduced in 2018. In March 2018, IFAB wrote VAR into the laws of the game, and we saw it used at the 2018 World Cup. Fast forward to the present, we even have semi-automated offside technology, which was first used at the 2022 World Cup in Qatar, and has since been adopted by the Euros, Champions League, and even domestic leagues like the Italian Serie A and Spanish La Liga. The English Premier League is expected to join that group midway into the 2024-25 season. So, you could say the goal line technology was what opened the minds of FIFA and other footballing bodies to see how technology can be used and how it can hugely aid officiating in the modern game. And in more ways than one, all of this is thanks to Frank Lampard and his ghost goal at the 2010 World Cup. The English didn't just sacrifice a goal. They sacrificed their hopes, they sacrificed their dignity, they sacrificed a generation, all for the revolution of the sport. Frank Lampard himself has since said that he's pleased because that ghost goal changed the sport for the better. But it is important to note that not everybody readily accepted goal line technology with a warm hug when it was introduced, and La Liga is a prime example of that. To date, the Spanish league has refused to introduce goal line technology, instead opting to use VAR as the one stone that would kill two birds. But this has led to a lot of controversy in the league, including one that happened in El Clasico in the 2023-24 season, when a Lamine Yamal shot looked like it had crossed the line, but there was no way to tell exactly because VAR cameras were unable to get a good enough angle. This put La Liga under a lot of pressure to join the wagon and adopt goal line technology as well. Anyway, what do you think would have happened had Lampard's ghost goal been rightfully awarded against Germany? Would England have gone on to win the game and maybe the tournament? Would we still not have seen technology being introduced into the sport the way it is right now? Tell us what you think in the comments. Also, tell us what you think about the introduction of technology in football. In your opinion, has it made officiating better or worse? Get in the comments and share your thoughts. Now, since we're talking about England, it might interest you to find out about some players who said a big fat no to the Three Lions. If you want to find out about 10 players who chose not to play for England, click this video and we'll tell you all about them.